I'd like to say hello to those that will watch this while it's live and those who will check this out later on. Um, I abhor texting. I despise it. I think it is inferior to calling, but I wanted to kind of break down my disdain for it and sort of clarify here. Um, so my distaste for texting is not to where I wouldn't speak to a person using it if it were the only option. There are some individuals that have things going on during a day. They're tired. They don't feel like just sitting there and having some long-ranging conversation. And I can accept that people. Always says once again, I'm doing a stream while he's enjoying a nice meal. I'm sure that was one of the few things you got from the from the divorce. Say hello to VVS. Yeah, here's the thing. If because there are problems both with texting itself and that things that are just superior when you say it as opposed to typing it. One of those things is meaning. If I sit here and I describe to you um, something, you can hear my tone of voice, you can hear how annoyed or frustrated I am with it. And a lot of times when you write a comment to someone, they can't tell if you're serious or you're joking, which I mean we've even seen that a little bit with the people who attempt to speak about something and have an individual say, "Were you serious?" Donahue says, "Not as bad as being interrupted by a call when you're live streaming." Um, I guess, but I'm trying to convey here that if I go and speak in this way, you know what my tone is versus if I type something. Usually, you have to figure out if I'm upset based off of your interpretation of it, uh, or if I'm just typing a bunch of in cap locks, capitalizing everything because that's supposed to be the same as screaming. But even then, people will still think you're mad at them or very angry if you type a certain sentence. Okay, let me see what this is. O'Donohue says, "Yeah, I prefer to speak on the phone to people." Yeah, and what I've noticed is that the willingness on my part to kind of renege on the things my preferences when it comes to who I interact with really depends on if I like that person enough. Because there are many people I only get to call maybe once a week, and I'll just text them throughout the weekdays and try to, describe something in a paragraph or two, just summing up what the main things that happened during the week. And I also find it kind of funny that um, there's actually now been one instance, and this is pretty groundbreaking, of a woman I was talking to who, because all she wanted to do was text, I just completely cut it off. I was sick of it. Um, where she was saying that she doesn't like to talk by phone. I said to her, again in text, um, how, what person have you ever met that you developed a strong liking for just by what they wrote? Now, this was accompanied by another sentence, and she only responded to one of them. Read what's been written here. So again, the people have this thing where they like to be selective in what they go after, which that's just with writing in general online it seems, but it's a little aggravating. Uh, O'Donohue says, by the way, who was don't worry about it. Envoy said, hey, you know what? If I started a Patreon, maybe we can get me a place where I don't have people walking in and out, but I know that's not going to happen. Uh, Christy says, hey, been a while with work. How are you? Envoy says, I think there's a science between texting people every day. Seems redundant. I'd rather text something off the wall or just drop a random thought. No, but I've noticed that when you talk with someone in, physically or just in person, you say, hey, how are you doing? Um, you're less likely to feel that same level of redundancy because I might say, hey, how are you? Or, hey, what's up? Versus, hello, hello, hello. Even if I type it differently, it still conveys the same thing because you're reading something and generally you're assuming what that person's tone is versus having it conveyed in the physical by the individual. So it's there's truth to that statement, but it also has to do with just what's allowed from both of those forms of communication. And I've noticed that with one. And you know, what also bothers me is that whenever I type something that's longer, it's usually to a person I'm more comfortable with speaking to because I kind of have this little bias in the back of my head, admittedly, that people are not going to read the entirety of what I wrote. And I've seen that just from people not even being able to pick up news articles and read through that. So I always try to limit it to a few sentences, even if it's something that is, greatly significant. Because again, we've seen the level of willingness to engage with literacy just plummet. And I know that that's something that what do you mean how else do you call them, you meet them physically? It's not that difficult. Again, most people I talk with any regularity, we communicate either for longer instances through calling or actually seeing the person in person. Um, and what I find really ironic is that there's a lot of hypocrisy when you have those long-winded text conversations because the person will say, "Oh, I don't feel like talking to you with the phone because I'm so tired." But then if you're so tired, how can you sit here and type these paragraphs and sentences? It's like me saying, I don't feel like doing a video today, man. I feel so worn out and beat. And then I go after doing this stream for 2 minutes and write a couple of sentences for hours after that. Donahue says, my friends almost never pick up the phone when I try to call them. They like to text more. I've noticed the same thing. With a lot of us now, we just schedule. We'll go, oh, I'll talk to you by phone Thursday at 7 p.m. or something. So I prefer that. BVS says, use texting to make it seem they're interested, but it is really to lead you on and soak up your attention. Yeah, this one that um, did this thing with this texting crap that wouldn't go beyond my way or the highway. Tried to get me to talk to her for a month, and I said, "Look, this is dumb because first of all, you're not even responding more than once a day, and when you do respond, it's usually something that's barely written. I mean, we're talking about not even complete sentences here, every 24 hours or 3 days or something." Okay, O'Donohue says, "Yeah, my friends always say they'll call me back, but never do." Um, Again, people I interact with tend to keep their promise with it. I usually just wait. If the person doesn't call back in that first day, I'll maybe attempt later on. Um, I will say the one thing I like about texting is that if the person doesn't respond for a while, I just leave them something that's, again, with the people that I actually know will read it, something that's long that just kind of sums up everything so they can, kind of have this to come back to. It's like almost it's the equivalent of having one of those post-it notes and just sticking it right in front of their house, virtually that is, so they can go back to it and respond. Always says, well, we've been programmed to communicate in many ways other than face to face, and that's why there's so many introverts. We're all talking to each other in the chat right now. That wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago. Didn't they? But they had chat rooms 20 years ago. Um, they didn't have streams at that point. Actually, no, I take that back because Clinton's I think it was his second inauguration was the first event ever live streamed off the internet. So it's been around for a while. It was more primitive, but it's had a couple of decades now. Brian says social media age has ruined communication more than it's helped. Yeah, but I don't blame social media for that because social media is just like everything else on the internet where it is a reflection of its operator. Just like texting, for example, wouldn't get in the way of people having to speak to each other by phone or physically if people didn't allow for it to do that. So when you manipulate when you take a tool, it's like with the guns, for example. The weapons by themselves don't blow brains out. It's the person who owns the weapon or has the weapon in their hand that is causing the destruction. Um, so it all goes hand in hand. Voices, what I'm basically saying is people don't have to talk face to face anymore, like not like in the 50s and 60s. Yeah, my favorite thing about that period was having these, you know, various letters that people would write to each other. Because back then, I could actually believe someone would sit there and just, after not hearing anything from you for 4, 5, 6, 7 days, want to read 2 or 3 pages of stuff you've had going on. I almost want to start that back up just because I like the idea of having a physical um, record of communication with people because this is all just data on the internet. Um, Brian said I literally get on the bus, everyone's head is down. O'Donoghue says social media has really blown up the ways we communicate. Envoy says to be fair, you wouldn't randomly talk to people on the bus. At least I won't. I know I won't. You could walk on the bus naked and ask people, and people would be glued to their phone. They won't notice for 10 minutes. Yeah, that I don't think everyone in there. Some would, but others. It depends on when people are on there. O'Donoghue says I actually do try to strike up conversation with random people I come across. Some like it, but some ignore me. Yeah, I've had the same thing where, you know, I have individuals who have known me for a long time try to assume the role of detractor and say, "Why don't you talk to so many people?" And I said, "Look, if I go out to a store and whether it's a male or female and I get their number and then after 2 weeks they're not responding to their text, I'm not going to keep messaging that person." So I get the same thing, O'Donoghue. I'm saying that that's something I've been in relation to. Okay, Brian says, I mean, literally, I would see friends texting other friends from afar instead of just talking face to face. Oh, I've seen that too. I've had 2 people call me while they were in the same domain or just restaurant or building. I said to him, why can't you just physically get up and speak to me? Oh, I don't know, I'm feeling like doing that. So I get what you're saying. Yeah, I'll be writing those after Trump's second term is over. That's how long this thing is taking. Uh, Envoy says, I've been with friends in like a hookah lounge, and sometimes we're talking to other people on the phone, but most of the time we do exchange with one another. Ryan says in NY, if you strike up a conversation on the bus with a stranger, you might get decked for no reason. Yeah, these inner cities are violent, man. I can concede that. Whether it's LA or New York City or Milwaukee or Chicago or Newark, you get scared to even go to places anymore. People just have these hostile tendencies. O'Donoghue says there was this who went to my, I'm getting off topic now, I'm trying to get back to this. I don't think all people do it intentionally. Some people just don't want to spend their energy on face-to-face dialogue. Let me read what O'Donoghue wrote. There was this one girl who went to my community college. There was this one time I said hi to her in the library, and she looked at me like I was a weirdo and said, "I don't even know your name." I actually had that where I went up to when I was at school, this woman, and she actually, I said hello to her, and she just went and kept staring at her phone. I'm just sitting, kind of standing here, hovering over her while she's on her phone, and I'm debating to myself, am I purposely getting ignored, or are they writing some lengthy message? I almost walked away before she responded back. Gave me her number, and then never heard from her again. So, uh, says I'm always wary of people who say they don't like people. Those people, how do you not like? Yeah, I don't. I would think what they mean by that, just like I say, I despise texting, which means the hating of texting, but it still isn't where I don't participate or partake in it if I have to. It's a last resort that can still serve a basic function. O'Donoghue says that girl hated me for no reason. She would run away from me when I was in her general vicinity. Hayden, stay away from her. Avoid her like the plague. Uh, but I just it's texting also to kind of get back to the main thing here because I don't want this to get off the main topic, which I wouldn't have to worry about if people didn't complain in the comment section. I thought this was about why you didn't like texting. Why were you reading people's comments? Um, all I did was just try to, yeah, okay, O'Donoghue, I'm gonna have to. If I don't read it, it's because I'm trying to think of something else that relates to the title. Um, the other part of this that is irritating to me is that it's allowed. Also, I want to notice if any of you notice this. Does it seem as if, because I used to think someone will say something over a phone that they wouldn't say to your face, but now it seems like it's someone will write something that they wouldn't say aloud to you, or even in a call. You have people who write this stuff online about who they hate and who they want to croak and all that, but you very rarely see videos of people saying those types of things. And when I've been cursed out and verbally assaulted by some of these both males and women that I've spoken with, um, there's this tendency where you try to call them, they won't answer the phone, and they make it seem as if they're denying you that because of, I guess it's a privilege or something to hear their voice, or at least they think you think it is. And I've actually had a couple that when they're doing that little writing game, they'll get angry. I won't write back to them. I said, look, I'm done with the voiceless oppressor state where you get to write all manners of evil. I want to hear you say it and actually not disassociate from reality. Because when people write things, they tend look at most of these popular songs. When people are in a writing mood, they just take all of those things that are boiling up in their head and just jot them down. Okay, Envoys I used to dislike who were extremely extra on text conversations with so many emojis and hearts. And I was like, who are generally talkative and social because I've known who are opposite. They're drier than cereal with no milk. Um, no, but I want to know if anyone else has noticed that where people, it seems now, will write something nastier than they'll say. Because I had one woman who, talked about how much she despised me, and then I got on the phone with her, and she's um, all reluctant and demure and timid. I said, what happened? Because I thought I was consistent how I spoke to her through text and then also over the phone. Yeah, that's not too relevant, envoy. I don't know where that came from. If I did get what I gave, she wouldn't have been telling me about how I was the worst person that ever trod the west coast of the United States. Ryan's like this one who I liked at first. We exchanged numbers, and now she texts all the time and she's super clinging and annoying. And I talk to her again. There's not a single person I talk to with any regularity that I again have the option to speak with that I'm annoyed by or dread interacting with. So make of that what you will. So not to make a shot at you, Brian, but I'm just saying that I couldn't see myself talking with anyone for any long period of time where I just go, oh my God, this person again. Here comes someone so clingy slash annoying. Oh my God, oh, I couldn't do it. Let's see what else is here. Okay, so the main points now are that it takes longer to. Okay, let me read Brian's comment. No, literally, I would wake up at 6 a.m. and have three texts from 2 a.m. Like, can you guys shower first at least? Well, I told you about the one time I had the woman that sent me her pictures, and then um, less than 7 minutes later was saying that I didn't want to talk to her because I hadn't responded quick enough. And I said, I'm in a grocery store moving this cart around. There's not much I can do other than focus on where I'm going. Brian is annoyed is to when can't get yeah envoy. That's the dichotomy of how things are now. Again, some people just aren't affected by this. You know, it is what it is. Envoy says, I find that group chats are probably the best dialogues to have over text. Well, in truth, I think when you get more people involved in any type of work or conversation, it's generally more entertaining than just one person sitting there. For example, if I did a 50-minute video where it's me giving some speech on why I'm tired of modern individuals of both genders, Some of you will watch it. Some of you will see most of it. Some of you, maybe two or three of you, will see the whole thing. One guy will watch the first 5 minutes and then buzz out. But if I do a 50-minute stream where it's me and maybe, I don't know, a friend sitting here and talking about how we're sick of whatever topic, and we're making jokes and whatnot, I think more people would be inclined to be entertained by that. Because if I'm, kind of lacking and taking a while to think of what I'm going to say, the other person might have something that can not give dead air in the discussion or the dialogue. The group chats with some of are just hilarious, the crazy talking and whatnot. Uh, Back in the primal age was the most were unattainable, and that just meant one more. Nobody wants an easy target, or the prize is undervalued. Yeah, well, again, I don't get this type of thinking. I already explained. I don't get turned on by people, you know, being not available slash running through hoops and doing what I am into. So just saying. Uh, but yeah, to sum up the main points, because I can see that the chat room other than Envoy and Brian is asleep. The other 10 people went to bed. They're all resting up. O'Donohue probably put on his snuggie, if anyone remembers that little robe from back in the early 2000s. And VVS is probably at the mall right now trying to talk to some woman that looks like a 2 but is going to treat him as if she's a 9 or a 10. Um, to summarize the main points of my discontent, I would say that the most frustrating parts are people who, when they text, will write these nasty or awful or mean things, and when you speak to them by phone, they're the complete reverse. Um, or they're, refusing to speak by phone. And if you type something to them, they ignore parts of what you type. They're selective in what they answer. And you have to keep typing that thing over and over again to maybe get an answer from them. Um, in addition to your tone of voice not being understood when you speak to the individual. I think people are more likely to not just randomly hang up on you versus not responding to a text you put out. Envoy says, do you have more issues in text with men or women? Well, I've texted more women than I have men, so I would say that viewpoint probably is slanted, but definitely women. I mean, I can think of at least two different occasions where I had a woman get upset that I didn't respond to her message in less than 10 minutes. I could see if a day went by, maybe 7, 8, 9 hours at the most, but less than 10 minutes. Just flipped her lid, leave me alone, go away, bye bye, stay away from me. So that's been the most insane thing I've seen from messaging people. And it's kind of funny because in the instance of one, this person was telling me how much she didn't care that I spoke to her, and I was nothing. So uh, why would you be that concerned about me not responding to you in 2 minutes? They literally wrote this person. She literally wrote at least 2 paragraphs, and I couldn't answer all of that in, what was that, 120 seconds. So just said bye, screw it, and blocked me, and then came back 5 days later. But we've been over that before. Say hello to Elliot, who is the 11th hour ranger of the stream, showing up right as I was getting ready to close this out. See here. Okay. Okay, Brian says, in what world take 10 hours to reply to a text? Maybe because usually I get. Well, again, I'm saying that people might, have something they're doing that doesn't allow them to be at the phone every few minutes. I've seen people who have a 9 to 5 job. Maybe there's a lunch break or two in between, but for the most part, they're just sitting at their desk having to do whatever work is required of them. So. I'm saying that I can at least see where it would take someone half a day or longer to respond, but when it's a day or more, that should be a telltale sign of what's really going on. Okay. Insight on past experiences with bad text. I think that the examples I just gave you of those two that were that upset over me not responding in 10 minutes uh, was the most ridiculous from what I've seen personally. Brian says that a script of text goes past tense. I just don't entertain the person. I don't think you'd lose your mind over that though. That's what I saw from them. But again, if both of these people who I wanted to speak with uh, by phone as I do with anybody else had opted to speak by voice. No, envoy. I'm giving you an estimate. One of them was 2 minutes. The other one was 6, where they became upset and said, "Bye, I won't talk to you anymore." I told both of them I would rather have a call, schedule a call, say I want to call you at this hour of this day at whatever time. I've done it with plenty of people, and they keep their pledge, I keep mine. We have an enjoyable dialogue. We schedule another one. Simple as that. I find it funny that I actually have had on several websites with these, um, more so with women than males, but they have this thing where if you say I'd rather have a call than text you, it's as if they think you're trying to do something disgusting to them. One of them said, "Why do you want to hear my voice? Why do you want to hear what I sound like? What are you trying to do?" I said, "What do you think I'm trying to do? It's a call." As if this was some revolutionary idea. Okay. Ryan says, yeah, it's rare that other MIAs will go past 4 or 5 minutes without responding. What pressure? I don't know what you mean, Envoy. I don't. I didn't know what they meant out of it. I told them to their faces. I will not. Will. I told them directly. I don't know what is problematic about speaking. Uh, you know, through a call. It's been done millions of times. I mean, I actually have another one. It's a third person, so it's not the same as the other two, who did write that I was trying to pressure her into doing something uncomfortable, like talking on the phone. And I only want to speak to her on the phone after I got frustrated by her taking forever to respond to her, to the text messages. And I told her to her face after she didn't respond for a few days. I said, "Hey, look, if you're not going to engage in this, we can just say screw it." And then she gave me her number off of this website. I spoke to her on there. She pledged that we would speak by phone eventually. Wouldn't give me a time or date or any instance where this would actually happen. I said, "Hey, are you gonna do this? Because I'm getting kind of annoyed by you taking forever." And then she told me about how she went to meditation and confession, and and probably hallucination, and decided that she didn't want to do any of this stuff. And after sitting in a room for 8 hours with the daishiki on, she went and didn't didn't want to call. If anyone remembers that stream, or was it the video? I think it was a stream. I'm not sure, from a month or so ago. Yeah. VVS says excuses. Uh, Brian says if you compliment or text them constantly, they'll look at you as well. I have tried to talk to people daily, but I don't usually say anything back or after the first message if they don't respond for a day or two. Yeah, Brian, that's very graphic. I'm so disgusted with you for typing that. This is a Christian channel. We don't allow such graphic things to be detailed in comment sections that only maybe 40 people will ever see because the channel is not popular. You're committing a national porn crime. So very disgusting. And ask yourself, what would Jesus do? Would he go into a comment section and talk about his method of sexual operations? You know, if he didn't want someone to text him back, what he would do to get them to respond in the way that he liked. Yeah, VVS, I intend to do the screenshot thing because a lot of people don't believe the stories I tell on here. And also, you have to understand the reason that's taking longer is because it takes longer to just sit there and edit something, and you have to cut out people's names, obviously. So that will eventually get put together. Brian says, "Don't sell yourself." Okay, I don't know who Tu Kring. Yeah, I don't know who that is. So. Envoy says, but that's part of the problem. I see where you're coming from, and I've done these mind games, but mind games are just part of the issue. People should just be upfront. Yeah, the only people I've spoken with are those that just are upfront with what they like to talk about, who they are. You know, I mean, it's hard to find people that way, especially, seemingly, I don't mean to sound sexist here, but I've found I've had a easier time finding males that are that way than women. So it's something that I've expressed to them my appreciation for time and time again. It's and again I've with people like that I don't have a problem getting past my distaste for texting. I don't I'll talk to them in any way that I can. I'll write them a letter or Morse code if I have to. VVS says use a screen capture on your phone and put the shots in one photo album and swipe. And I think you could, yeah. Well, the voiceover will be recorded by itself, and then it'll be as I'm looking at the various messages. I just have to write out what I want to say and make sure that it's concise and doesn't have any ums and various other gaffes. Um, like that, yeah, as an example. Let's see here. Okay, Brian's giving us an excerpt of his autobiography. By high school, I started to work on myself and let women chase me, and it's worked ever since, for the most part. Envoy says, "Oh, Brian, I get you. I'm a few years older than you, and I know how the game is played. My issue is we shouldn't be playing games in the first place, if you understand." Brian says, "I haven't complimented a woman since." Yeah, I've noticed that thing where where I cannot say this anything directly nice about that person if they're female, and I've never had to do that with any of the males I talk with. I in some cases I think I overcompliment. I go, "Oh man, you're good at this, you're good at that," and it saddens me to feel conflicted on doing that, but at the same time have the conviction that this is what they want. This is what is most appealing to those I've interacted with and those I will interact with. You cannot present yourself as what you are, but rather as the illusion that they would like to believe they are around. VVS says, I've done a good job since last year of not complimenting them. Envoy says that's crazy. If I want to compliment a woman, I'll compliment. If I know I'm not, what doesn't matter if she thinks. Um, yeah, you can compliment whoever you want to. Uh, Two cringes asked, do the girls you talk to watch your channel? Well, I've had one actually stalk my page for almost a week to see if she would get talked about. So if that answers that question. And I was blocked by her, and she just sat there for days waiting. Did he talk about me yet? 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 He talked about me. Let me write something. Let me unblock him and then call him. Our voice says like the great Dwayne the Rock Johnson used to say, it doesn't matter what you think. Envoy says, I am offended by the voice you just used to imitate my voice. That's cyberbullying. Yeah, I'll be in prison after this. Along with what was it, the 35% of other African Americans contribute to that number for imitating that your voice or doing my own little impression of what it would sound like. using a different tone, and for people that don't bother to look at the chat room and know that I'm talking, I'm rather reading something that someone else is saying. So, what else is here? All right, well, I'm probably gonna cut this off soon. Um, I hope I've conveyed my frustrations with the way communication is now, and I can only hope that things will, change. I don't expect them to. I've tried to adapt to the constant need among many people to disassociate themselves with just communicating like people used to when they would talk and when they would speak in person, go travel to see each other. Um, but after a while, it does get irritating, and I've actually had to cut people off over this because you can only take so much. As I told the one woman who was saying that she didn't wish to correspond if I wouldn't text her only or exclusively, and I said, look, the my way or the highway doctrine only goes so far, and there are plenty of other people I can text that will want to call eventually, including those who I know are better than you. So go away. Envoy says, good stream. What do you plan for your next stream? Given that it next week, tomorrow's Monday, and the start of a new week, that we'll probably see something political. Uh, and I know we'll only get maybe 3 or 4 people in here. So that is that is the less than optimistic and speculation or prediction going into that. And people say it's negative, but I just know how people work. When you talk about something that's not drama filled or having to do with the everyday run of the mill, um, wasteful abuses of just interactions that people have, and the mischaracterizations of what is important, people tune it out. They don't want to hear that. They're also not willing to hear out anything that just doesn't enforce all of the superficial things that we have to put up with, whether we're into the things that matter or not. So thank you for watching and have a good day.